All right, we are live for a Thursday edition of the People's Talk Show, and I'm looking forward to finding out what's on your radar. And so I came across a lot of interesting stories on my end, and so I thought I would come on and share with you what's happening, what's mainstream, what's not, share my opinion as well as get your take as well. So, welcome to the live stream. Hope everyone is doing well. As always, want to make sure I welcome any first time viewers. Definitely let me know where you're watching from. And also, the most important part of this show is the phone portion. This number here, 313-462-0027, is a number that you can call when it opens up to let your voice be heard. And so, looking forward to connecting. As always, man, excited to be back and to be able to connect with the community. And so, let me check in, make sure everything is going smoothly on my side and we should be good to go. And it looks like, as always, the algorithms didn't notify anybody because I didn't get notified of my own live stream. So it's good to say it might take a minute for more people to plug in. But anyway, got about 4 or 5 stories, give or take. And then also want to get your thoughts on what's happening out here in this crazy world we live in. And so before I move forward, if you have not, make sure you hit that thumbs up button, show your boy some love. Hopefully that helps, but I'm not banking on it. As also, if you find any value here, feel free to share so more people can get plugged in and find out what's going on outside of the mainstream lies. Okay, so let me just check in real quick, acknowledge a couple people. So it looks like people might be coming in. We got Barlight Broker checking in, AG Stackerdom. We got Supernatural. Okay. What's up, my friend? Mr. Belvedere checking in. Says, is the cyber attack still happening in Vegas? That I'm not familiar with. Didn't hear anything about Vegas being the actual target for things to kick off at. But then again, I got a story about an event that's taking place in Nigeria. And I have my suspicions as to why that is, but it has a lot to do with blackouts. Could be caused by a cyber event. Who knows? But it's causing a lot of issues in the country that it's not in the best shape, to say the least. But I think there's a lot more to that story. I'm gonna share my thoughts on that. Steven said, Mike, good to see you. Same here, my friend. Appreciate your Ed is in the building. New Queen of Rap says, are you excited for 2024? Great question. Actually, I am. Regardless of all the things that's taking place, all the doom and gloom, there's still opportunity out here. And so outside of just, hey, getting a chance to see another year is the first thing to be grateful for. But beyond that, it's an opportunity to continue to grow as a person, improve yourself, as well as, spend time with family, friends, and loved ones. And on top of that, I guess tap into some of the things that really excites your heart. So 2024, I always look forward to starting off a new year with the expectation of God doing, more great things through me the way he always has. So I definitely am excited. And if out of curiosity, let me know what excites you about 2024. I figured that'd be a good question to put out there to the community. What excites you guys for the remainder of this year or perhaps even next year? And so a lot to be thankful for. All right. Britney is free. I'm not sure. Is that Britney Spears? Is that, I don't know. I haven't been following that one. Oh my goodness. Rolf, appreciate you bringing in something hot. Let me check this out real quick. It says Ukrainians apparently have a heap of dirt on Joe Biden, and Zelensky is visiting Washington, D.C. to tell the Americans that they are going to expose Joe and Hunter if the U.S. doesn't keep the dough flowing. I don't doubt it. And one of the concerns I would have if I was Zelensky, believe me, he's only in that position because he was placed there. And so just as easily as he was placed there, it's good to say he can easily be replaced. So I would, if that is the case, I would encourage him to be a little cautious because, mind you, he's just a puppet. He's not like a primary player that has any true meaning to them. He's just being used. Mind you, I'm sure you all saw those photos, videos of him doing some type of dance contest in a thong or something like that. Just, he was a comedian. He was an actor. So I don't really expect much from him. But if he is bold enough to do that, to come to this land begging, demanding more funds, he must have gotten word from somebody behind him who's, telling him to, hey, this is what we want you to do. So That would be my suspicion. That would be my thought about that. All right. Okay. So let me stop wasting time. For those that are plugged in, if as I mentioned, hit the thumbs up button, man. It'll be great if more people were able to be notified. But then again, it is what it is. But also, I'm streaming over on Rumble. So for all my people here, if you are on Rumble, I encourage you to go over there as well, because your boy is streaming there as well. So I'm trying to plug in more there, just in case. Anyway, okay, let me keep it moving. Let me get myself together here. Okay, interesting things. Okay, so once again, the stats don't lie. You know, everybody's aware of the current conditions of the economy, so it's no real surprises anywhere. But then again, it's interesting how the figures that central bank uses to measure, engage, and to determine whether or not they're going to be hiking next week or not, it baffles me. But then again, it's not for me to understand, just because they don't really make or call any shots. They just basically try to use the narrative of controlling interest rates at this current moment to keep people dialed in and always plugged into whenever Jerome Powell and the FOMC meets, because the bond market ultimately dictates what exactly will happen. And let me see here. It says Death said no point in having stocks when for a week T-bills pay 5%. Yeah, and that's a problem. That's going to be a problem. That's going to be a problem because of that activity. There is the reason why deposits are leaving the system, even for the globally systemic important banks, which is eventually going to cause issues for them. And then also it's flooding into the money markets and things like that. And so all that cash is sitting there isn't good for the economy, because it's not circulating. It's sitting there earning greater interest, of course. But then again, the economy can't run if currency don't flow. So we're going to have some issues with that. So it's just a doom loop all in one. So that's why, just my initial thought is, as someone observing all this, pretty much we got a front. So everybody who's tuned in now, you have a front row seat to see how all this craziness unfolds. So we get a chance to really learn from a variety of, educators to kind of put together a thesis as to how we're going to respond in this. And so one of my primary premises heading into the next year is to keep your cash flow coming, stay out of consumption style debt, look for opportunities that are extremely cheap, that has a lot of upside potential given a turnaround in the economy. That's if the Federal Reserve and other central banks respond in normal fashion of having some type of deflationary crash, and then them deciding to turn back on the spigot will ultimately flow into those assets that are undervalued, underappreciated, underpriced, which would definitely provide a lot of capital for the redeploying into other things that can also earn you and allow you to enjoy being a wise steward in this current time frame. So, okay. All right, I'm rambling too much. All right, let's get to some headlines real quick, man. Then I'll open up the phone lines and we'll see where this takes us. Let me see here. Okay, first things first. Let's talk. Okay, so PPI figures came out. Not too surprising, but just as I mentioned before, the numbers aren't adding up for their own case of fighting inflation. But it says U.S. PPI sees significant surge in August, led by gasoline and energy. And so it's the same thing with the CPI. Gasoline and energy is no way around that. Gasoline and energy is one thing. The Federal Reserve and FOMC and the EU and everybody else, they can't control that. It's the real resources that come out of the ground that the world is dependent upon that keeps the system together. All these central banks and the institutions that's associated with them, all they do is just create fictitious digits to give a price value for those items. But then again, it's all subject to, especially when it comes to oil, the Middle East, the fact that they're withholding millions of barrels of oil deliberately to drive the price up is not something that they can combat on this side by punching in some numbers on the screen. So it's going to be a problem. So we'll see how they respond to this resurgence of PPI and CPI, and we'll see what they do. More than likely, it's going to lead to some type of interest rate pause. So they'll let the previous hikes catch up to the current time frame. Then they'll deal with the consequences of whatever comes at that moment. So we'll see. But anyway, just keeping you up to date on what's happening with those figures there. Okay, let me close some windows here. So I got too much stuff open. All right. The very next one is it's pretty much the leading story I wanted to talk about because I came across this late. But then again, it's the symptom of more than just Bidenomics. Bidenomics is just a cover because he's currently in office right now. And so previous administrations all had a bout with, an increase in prices at some time just because it's a monetary phenomenon. It's caused by central banking and, of course, commercial banking and their ability to create currency out of nowhere. It's ultimately the privatization of our currency, which is leading to all these problems at this current moment. But I thought this was interesting because here we have Georgia governor declares state of emergency over inflation. And of course, this article here, they add a little something on top by saying blames Bidenomics. So he didn't actually blame Bidenomics, but he blamed the White House. So it's one and the same, I guess. So anyway, real quick, I'll thumb through some highlights from this article here, and also just by a show of hands in the chat, thumbs up or thumbs down. Let me know if you guys like the attempt to try to summarize things in a more quick and precise method with these little quick bullets here that I grabbed. But anyway, real quick here. So Governor Kemp, he suspends the state's gas tax temporarily until October 12th. Says the tax suspension results in savings of 31.2 cents for regular gasoline and 35 cents for diesel. So just those numbers in and of itself, I know from myself personally, I don't know about you, but whenever I'm out getting gas, I know what areas are usually the cheapest. So I definitely go to those areas first. So like, especially in certain pockets of the city, we have gas stations that's always 20 cents cheaper. And so for example, in Georgia, everybody know where to go to get their gas at. So imagine going there and it's usually 20 cents cheaper than everywhere else. All of a sudden now it's 50 cents cheaper. So that adds up a little bit in your pocket. So I can see how a lot of people might be kind of happy about that one. It says here, Kemp blames the Biden administration for the inflation hike. And so once again, political spiel, you got to point the blame towards something that's, direct and obvious and mainstream. So he blames it on the Biden administration. Never touch on the real issues, which is the monetary and fiscal collision that we're having right now. But then I get his point. He's just trying to push back because of all the damage that's been done right now, probably on Trump, especially in Georgia. So yeah, it doesn't surprise me. But it says here, gas prices in Georgia have increased significantly in the past year. It says the average gas price in Georgia was $3.24 in September of last year. Now it's increased by 33 cents. So basically it's $3.57 right now. So what they're basically saying on average, with this little 30% decrease, it's going to be $3.20. It's going to be the same price it was last year. It says with the tax suspension, filling up a 15-gallon tank costs $48 compared to $53 with the tax. So you save $5 basically. So he's acting like that's a big deal. So anyway, it's just interesting how state of emergency was declared because of the gas prices. And so the question is, will there be other states that follow this type of emergency measure due to gas prices? So yeah, thought this was interesting just because state of emergency for gas. I'm like, if he's declaring a state of emergency over some gas, clearly he don't know what they're working towards because it's going to, based upon the current trends, it stands to be a lot worse. Okay, I got about to take it somewhere else. Jay says diesel right now, these are $5 now in Arizona. Okay. Diesel is $5. Okay, keep it moving. Let me get some more stories. Appreciate you guys. Okay, so here's another interesting development that I tried to get some updated information on, but it's very telling of what happens when your resources are they're basically taken away from you and you're forced to scramble on the fly to try to make do when it comes to energy. And so this article here came out this morning and it says Nigeria hit by a widespread blackout and a total system collapse. So apparently, from what I've gathered, the entire country or good chunks of it just went black. completely out. Now I don't know what the issue was. My first thought was that Nigeria was just 2-3 weeks ago caught up in between the ECOWAS and the Western's push to respond to Niger, and Nigeria Congress said that no, we will not get involved in that. And so Nigeria has been a puppet state all along. And for them all of a sudden now, the Congress to turn the tide and go the opposite way. So my suspicion is that this was probably an intentionally done act. It was system was sabotaged by some people who wanted to send an example to the Congress and to everybody else as to what'll happen if you don't obey. That's just my suspicion. I could be 100% wrong, but we'll tell. But here's one of the main things I wanted to show you out of this: just the cost of energy. Now people are scrambling to get generators, and so it's costing an arm and a leg for people to go basically get their generators up. And so a lesson to be learned: emergency backup power, extremely important, people. Extremely important. Make sure you got something, whether it be a gas generator, solar generator, or something, just because when stuff hit the fan, everybody and their mother gonna be scrambling to try to get something. Let me get myself together here. Okay, so real quick, I'll thumb through just some highlights in the article. It says the country's power grid is known for its erratic performance despite being a major oil and gas producer. So they're naturally rich in all the things that it would take to keep your grid up and running. But then again, it all gets exported somewhere else. It says this incident marked the most serious outage in a year, with several previous grid collapses in 2022. It says the recent blackout was attributed to an explosion and fire on a transmission line connecting two power plants in Niger state. So, explosion connecting two power plants in Niger state. So the explosion, okay, yeah, you might. Okay, I had to mention this. There was another meat processing plant that was burning today, if I'm not mistaken. I saw that. So just all these explosions and yeah, not natural. It says less than 50% of Niger's power population has access to a regular power supply, leading many homes and businesses to use generators and other alternatives. It says Nigeria's potential power production is 12,500 MVs, but it typically generates only a quarter of that. It says at the peak of the outage, power levels had risen well beyond what they can afford. And so one of the other issues, or not issues, but one of the other parts of the article was talking about people basically scrambling to get solar generators, and how in the midst of a crisis, if you can find them, imagine the cost of getting a generator. Say if it's originally $200 or whatever for something small, when lights go out, quadruple that, 300, 400, easy. So take care of those matters now, because you never know when the lights might go off. And as much as they're using that as a threat here in the West, it could be any moment in a sense. Okay, keep it moving. Here is something that I think we're going to hear more about as economic conditions deteriorate. CBDCs. It's been a minute since I talked about it, but while all these events are occurring, all of the distractions, diversion tactics, aliens, and all the other stuff is being talked about, the central banks and the tech community are steadily building away. So Swift. So like right now, I haven't dived into it much, but Swift, which has been known as one of the slowest messaging services that communicates globally, has had a major upgrade behind the scenes to where they're transmitting messages, i.e. transactions, in record amounts of time, i.e. they've connected to some type of blockchain network on the back end. And of course, ISO 20022 is everybody's favorite go-to. And they got all the alleged projects in there that people are excited about. And so I have my thoughts on that as well. So, we'll go from there. But it says Swift enrolls 3 central banks interoperability beta test. So interoperability. That was the whole narrative of the decentralized space. Now, all of a sudden, the centralized community, central banks, appear to have perfected the interoperability factor of being able to have multiple central banks connecting in a variety in their own currencies and have it exchanged in real time using, I would say, CFI technology. And so one of the interesting things here, I was reading another article, and it was talking about the banks that were included, but then it said there were some banks that were also included, but their names can't be mentioned. So I'm thinking like, I wonder what banks that can't be mentioned. So obviously it's one of the G7 banks, because those banks are some of the most recognized and usable banks and currencies. And so right here, they're testing the beta test with some smaller central banks that nobody really cares about. But then again, it's all about laying the framework for what they have coming. So real quick information on what this is about. It says SWIFT announced that the three central banks, including Hong Kong Monetary Authority and the Central Bank of Kazakhstan, have joined the beta phase of its CBDC interoperability project. So it's like you just throw in Kazakhstan just because they're like, they just want to be a part of something. It says SWIFT has entered a new phase of sandbox testing for CBDCs, with over 30 participants, including major banks like Royal Bank of Canada, the Bank of France, and HSBC. So this sandbox testing is what started back in March, when I talked about it earlier in the year, when they made it known that they are now beginning to test. And I say, whenever they're telling us they're testing, more than likely it's already done, and they're probably just working out the kinks, because they're definitely using the technology. It says Swiss has been involved in various CBDC projects, including a wholesale CBDC project with the New York Federal Reserve Bank. And so SWIFT has already finished their program, and I want to say it's connected to the Fed wire. I talked about that a while ago, and pretty much at this current moment, there are several lists of central banks that have already plugged in, and on that same list that I saw, because I think it's from the SWIFT. I found it in some back pages somewhere, but it showed you the schedule of central banks that were going to plug in. And what caught me by surprise was on that same list of central banks was Russia and China. And so I'm thinking to myself, either this was before the alleged rift between the BRICS and the West and the East pulling apart and all this Ukraine stuff, or just out of formality. It's only natural that if you have a central bank, you automatically want to plug in, because you want to take advantage of the tech as well as have access to the systems so that you can do international trade. And so Russia and China was on that list, but they were set to be brought in or plugged in. I want to say it was like 2026 or something like that. It was down the line, because they were at the end of the list and they had all the smaller banks up front. But when I saw Russia and China, I'm thinking like, well, hold on. If they're working on their own, but they also plug it in here, so are they selling us a bunch of hot air with all this back and forth, battling East versus West stuff? And all along, they are already going to plug in and things will flow smoothly just in a entirely new system, which is probably what I'm suspecting is the case. And so all this stuff we're seeing right now, literally is all smoke and mirrors. Like, they're working together in unison, trying to accomplish the same goal: to reboot the monetary system and to lessen the freedom and choices we have in this new one. So Mike Otto says HBAR, Stellar, XDC, and XLM. So here's the thing with that, Michael. If it's so HBAR, even though I do host my HBAR, I'll be upfront, just because a lot of these projects here I do speculate with, just because the potential upside is too great to pass by. But then again, if it doesn't work, it's not an end be all. But HBAR especially, phenomenal project, not even a blockchain. They have their own unique protocol, one of many. But then again, their blockchain or their network went down earlier this year, and they stopped all activity on their network. And so after seeing that, it even convinced me even more that all of these centrally controlled companies, because that's what they are, they're just companies that are working with the centrally controlled controllers that's trying to create this reset. So just as easy as they're building for them, I would imagine a part of their agreement is that when it's time to flip the switch and to really reveal the real use case of all this tech, I would imagine a lot of these projects will probably cut off access to wallets that are not KYC, AML, or approved via having, sacrifice and working with, whoever, they want you to pledge allegiance to, just because that's how easy it is, because it's their network. You have a piece of it through their tokens, but once again, they have the on and off access points through their own network. So that's just something to be cautious of, because I do see a time where the veil is removed and we're exposed to what's really going on. Because I still do believe flat out that the tokenization, they're working to build tech to tokenize the world for their own benefit, not for you and I. So they'll have access to tokenized houses, cars, call you, because they want to tokenize us as well. And that includes linking our social security number to a blockchain, because right now it's on paper in the basement of the DFCCC, whatever the hell that is. But they want to tokenize your social security number so that you are a property on their ledger. That's what this is about. And so you won't have access to, withdraw your coins, which is for referring to you, your energy, your time, and your efforts. It belongs to them in a sense. But then again, in the short term, there will be a great opportunity to take advantage of it. I do believe that. Okay, I'm rambling too much. Okay. So speaking of CBDCs, here's another little headline I think is worth mentioning. There are people out there pushing back or putting up a front to push back. I don't know. You guys let me know. But it says Rep. Tom Emmer reintroduces anti-CBDC bill to Congress. And so once again, as much as this sounds like, he, loves his country, okay, it won't work. And I don't mean to be pessimistic, but it's like, it's him and 49 other people who sign on to this bill that won't even see the light of day, because the system in of itself is greater than this small little portion. The only way the CBDC will not be introduced is if 300 plus million Americans come to the realization of what's going on, and we each demand change within our own states with our own governors, and then our governors who listen to the people, and then the governors reenact gold and silver within the state as legal tender money, which it already is, to be utilized. And from the state level, changes happen. Nothing's going to happen on the federal level at all. But then again, I don't want to say never, but it's very unlikely. But just a real quick synopsis as to what's going on here. It says, Representative Tom Emmer and 49 co-sponsors have revived the CBDC Anti-Surveillance State Act to safeguard Americans' financial privacy. They argue that the CBDC could compromise privacy and individual sovereignty, labeling it a surveillance tool, 100%. Emmer initially proposed a bill back in January 22 and formally introduced the bill in Congress this year. The bill prohibits the Federal Reserve from issuing CBDCs to individuals and using them for monetary policy. So, he's like Emmer and the 49 people. Sure, it sounds good, but they're too late in the game. They just don't realize how far we are in this system to where it's no turning back. And just for the sake of what I'm talking about, if politicians really want to make change, the time to make change, let me just zoom in. Let me zoom in and move myself out of the way. The time to make change would have been back here when gold and silver was still in the psyche of the American population. And so it would have been worthwhile had there been true lovers of our country to not allow the Federal Reserve, which is our third central bank, to come into power and basically signing over our national currency to a private entity. And bit by bit, they've been working towards this agenda of removing metals first. Now they're removing paper at some point, and all they want to have us with is digits. And so, as we can see here, I love little visual aids like this. But as you can see here, electronic currency has been heavily utilized. The dollar, aka the dollar, I prefer to call it a Federal Reserve note, it has been digital predominantly since the 60s. And so here we are now, 2023, and they want to pass a anti-CBDC bill. We've already been on digital currencies. It's just been commercial bank digital currencies. Now they're trying to transfer it into the hands of the central bank solely to create a central bank digital currency. So a little too late for that bill, but I do see its point, and I wish it was something that they could do about it, but I wouldn't hold my breath. And so last article here, and I'll stop boring you. Here is some good news. Here is some good news here. This is some good news. This kind of got me excited. Not excited, but it's just, another option out here because it's by Keith Neumeyer. And I'm actually reaching out to him, trying to get it back on the show. But First Majestic opens silver minting facility in Nevada, citing incredible demand. And so First Majestic, I definitely, that's a mining company that I am a shareholder in, just because Keith, having talked to him and seeing his vision, he's gun ho on making sure he gets metal out of the ground and gets it into the people's hands. So if you guys want some quality silver with very low premiums, I would encourage you to visit First Majestic's website, because they sell directly now, but it's even better. They opened up a mint now in Nevada. And so this is going to be something worth taking advantage of, because it's good to say he's competing in a very heavily contested market with some of the big boys. And so I'd imagine he has something up his sleeve to where he is his own plug. He is the source. It's his company that gets the metal out of the ground. So you don't have to go through no other parties to get metals into your hands. So I would say check that out. It might be something worthwhile. And I'm going to try to get him on the show to have him share his latest news with you guys. But anyway, okay. So enough of me ranting. I've ranted now for 30 minutes. Now let's open up the phone lines. But before I do that, we got 131 people here. Appreciate you guys for blessing with your presence. Let's see. We got, let me see here. We only got, I see 5 thumbs up. 5. I could be wrong, but I see 5 thumbs up. Just for the sake of being in the community, show your fellow community members some love by being willing to hit that thumbs up button one time, just so that YouTube know that you guys enjoy the content and enjoy the community. So hit that thumbs up button if you don't mind, and that'll go a long way. And so what I'm going to do right now is share with you a little bit of an update from 4 Patriots, which is something, like you never be too prepared. And on top of that, you get a 10% discount for your first time. So hopefully you guys are taking advantage of that, because I know I have. But here's a quick little update, and we'll get into the phone line. So have some questions, some thoughts, or something ready for your boy. Do you have backup power for emergencies? The power grid here in the U.S. is outdated, and at least 2/3 of the grid is 25 years older or more. That's why having your own solar power is more important than ever. With the Patriot Power Generator, you will never be without power. You can take it with you on the go or use it indoors, yet it's powerful enough for your phones, medical devices, or even your fridge. And right now, you can go to 4patriots.com and use the code RTD to get 10% off your first purchase on anything in the store. That even includes the Patriot Power Generator. You'll also get their famous guarantee for an entire year after your order, plus free shipping on orders over $97, and a portion of every sale is donated to charities that support our veterans and their families. Just go to 4patriots.com, use code RTD to get 10% off. That's 4patriots.com. Use code RTD to get yours today. All right, people, we are back and we are live. Let's talk. So feel free, as always, to give me a call. I want to hear from you guys, just because there's no talk show unless you're talking to somebody. So I've gotten off my chest all the things that caught my attention. What's catching your attention? So the phone lines are open. We'll see where it takes us this evening. If you got a thought, idea, suggestion, feel free to share it. If not, forever hold your peace. So Yvette says 90. Appreciate that. So I was also looking at a screen. I forgot to refresh it. So what I saw, I think the first 5 I saw was from earlier in the stream. So forgive me. Danny Good from New Brunswick, Canada. How you doing, my friend? Appreciate you for joining us. What happened to all the infrastructure investments? The infrastructure investments, as far as, what was that? One of the acts or one of the bills that was passed. I have no idea. That those funds were, whatever the bill's name is, to let you know what's not going to happen. So infrastructure bill, was it Fight Infrastructure Inflation Act or some crap like that? it goes to the complete opposite. So I wouldn't. We all know the money didn't make its way to where it's supposed to go because, within that 6,000-page bill, they had Zelensky, his mama, his daddy, his cousins, Biden, the big guy got paid. The criminality that takes place is so in front of our face. It's so there. And it's like, man, like just one individual, what can you do about it? Like, you just can't do anything about it. It's just one thing to do, encourage me and remind me to do is I know we've been robbed. I know the system is literally through inflation, through taxation naturally, and just through the way the system operates. We're being robbed every day. So it encourages me to take some of my time and energy when I do earn our national currency. I enjoy being able to redeem them and to get into things that I believe has value, short and long term. And so that's one of the ways that I'm like, okay, well, Lord willing, I get to live long enough to enjoy some of that wise stewardship. But then again, if I don't, my kids will, hopefully. Okay. Let's get a call in. So I see the question, Elias. I'm gonna get to you in a second. Hello, caller. Where are you calling from?
Online broker from the internet.
Online Barley broker. What's up, my friend?
Too quick. I'll get off here real quick.
Yes, sir. Give it to
Number one, we need all those suffering in Hawaii. Number two, there's another good channel you'd probably be interested in also. It's called Coffee with Jesus and Vincent Rhodes on YouTube.
Coffee with Jesus? Okay.
Correct.
Check that out. I've not heard of that one. Okay. So what about Hawaii again?
Pray for those people.
Oh, 100%. Like, and that's another thing I haven't mentioned it not once. So yeah, that's just one of many things, man. So what's the latest? Like, what? I haven't followed it beyond the initial first couple of days and seeing Oprah and The Rock trying to swindle money from people. But what's the latest? Like, I'm assuming they're talking making a smart island or something crap like that.
Misery and destruction for those poor people, man.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, well, hey, definitely, man. That is something that way to bring it back to the table. Appreciate you, man.
Thank you.
Yeah, be good. Yeah, the people of Hawaii. I forgot. I mean, didn't forget, but it's just, yeah, it's a lot of things to keep your attention these days, and it did slip my mind. All right, forgive me. Give me some calls, people. I did see some calls. I saw some questions too. It was one. Let me go back here. I saw somebody highlighted at RTD something. It was a nice little lengthy paragraph. Anthony from South Carolina. How you doing, my friend? All right, here's one. It says, RTD, a while back you said something to the effect of focusing too hard on stacking. All the 9,000 IQ moves I've made over the last 5 years, stacking is one that I haven't had any regrets. Yeah, so last thing, I haven't had any regrets either at all. And so a part of my whole monetary literacy process that I've been on for the last 10 years now, it all started based upon me witnessing what's happening in other countries. And in particular, the one closest and nearest to my heart is Argentina. And so having witnessed that, been a part of that, realizing how, important money is, to the fact I didn't know what money was until when I started accumulating gold and silver. It's like, man, like it gave me a sense of like, there is something you can do. You can take back some type of power in your own possession with your knowledge. And then usually with the knowledge comes the actions behind it. And so having a chance to buy or redeem, fiat for currency, i.e. money in the form of gold and silver, has been something that, has definitely blessed me and many others for quite some time now. One thing I did mention that you're referring to is that, like, I talk a lot about that in a preparedness standpoint. But then again, some people might say, okay, so you're going to just sit and buy gold and silver all your day in life? Okay, so it serves a purpose as insurance that you never hope to have to file a claim on. But then what are the opportunities? And that's where I'm trying to take more of an opportunistic approach towards what's in front of me. And that's where I say, okay, having exposure to different sectors that would allow me to accumulate more and increase my insurance policy down the line. And that's why I've gotten into a lot of speculative things that are somewhat risky, but then again, it's worth it because I think done correctly, there'll be great opportunities. So that's kind of what I was talking about. If you can get the mic way down here, that's kind of what I was talking about. So You can never have too much, but then the biggest issue is going to be security, as well as having an exit plan or a game plan along the way. All right, keep it moving, keep it moving, keep it moving. Genocide of Ukraine will rapidly accelerate this winter, and the USA's plan for the new Israel and Ukraine will start to unfold as well. Oh, rough. That's deeper than I'm familiar with, but then again, I take it that that information you've gathered and that it has some validity to it. I don't know. I beyond, it's been a year now. So think about it. It's been a year now. A year and what, since February of 2022. So a year and 5, 6 months, 8 months, 7 months of a proxy war designed to distract us. And just how you know it's not a real war based upon previous wars. Putin and Zelensky are neighbors, and they conducting life as normal. You got U.S. politicians going to Ukraine and having meetings. Zelensky's flying all over the world. What type of war is this? Like, if it's a war, you're out for your enemies. These cats are just like, it's just like, they just, television. It's like a television beef. They just talking all that stuff, because I don't even think all that stuff is really happening on the borderline like they're telling us. Like, so I just think that, we're not even in a war. That's not a war over there. That's just a cover up for a greater agenda. And the greater agenda is this whole rift between the West and East, the BRICS and East, and the West is, yeah. So, but there is definitely, Ukraine definitely is going through some shifts, because I did a video earlier this year about how the World Economic Forum's processes has been enrolled there, to where they got the digital ID already, and they got a trial version, I think, of the CBDC linked to the digital ID. And I did a video. So it's like, it's when I found out, I'm like, okay, well, you never let a crisis go to waste. So you can either create a crisis or pretend that there's one and then still use it. So, all right, man. I'll be ranting too much, man. Forgive me. Let's get to some calls. All right, here we go. Hello, caller. What's your name? Where you calling from?
Low blood pressure, Corpus Christi. How's it going, Mike?
LBP, doing good, my friend. What's up with you?
Hey, not much, Mike. They already have all this. You own nothing, and be happy, Mike. You got stocks, Mike. You own nothing. Your 401k is nothing. The U.S. dollar is a nothing. You got digital nothings in the bank as it is now, Mike.
Yeah, very true. But the biggest difference is it hasn't kicked into other people, so they'll be willing to accept those digital nothings. So it's not until it becomes as obvious as what's happening in Argentina right now, where the numbers don't lie, because when you go to the store, it says like 6,000 pesos rather than a year ago it said 60, because they've added 2 zeros. So until it becomes something like that, where it was visible and it's obvious, numerically speaking, people will still take it, and everything in between, man.
Look, Mike. I was on Airbnb. Speaking of Argentina,
mm-hmm.
I was a little bit of research, and it says online. It's just going by what I've been looking. All the property in Argentina, because I wanted to go cash out, and,
mm-hmm.
and take advantage of the disparities,
mm-hmm.
like George Soros likes to do.
Yeah.
And their properties, they're all based in dollars.
100%.
And also, I was like, damn, so I can't even take advantage of these people while they're down,
So
then look, Mike,
yeah.
I went on Airbnb and I went to Buenos Aires to try to get pretend like I was going to try to get a hotel or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's all based in dollars, and on Airbnb you could text the people,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I started talking to the guy in Spanish.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, hey, why is your apartment? Because you could even haggle. I try haggling, but nobody accepts it. But you can do whatever you want,
Yeah.
So I text them. I told the guy, hey, how come the prices?
You got cut off there.
Oh, okay. You heard what I said?
No, go ahead. We got cut off. Go ahead. Try it again.
Okay, you could text the people on Airbnb. So I text the guy in Argentina. I said, hey, why are your prices so expensive? If the hype with the inflation, he goes, no, everything's based in dollars. So it doesn't matter. Like everything's dollars here, so you're not going to get a good deal.
Yeah.
And he wouldn't move on the price, Mike.
I don't doubt it, man. So think about this: like everybody, like so, unemployment is through the roof down there because all the young generation, the unskilled generation, they're the ones like just not working. But the older generation that has businesses and own real things, they price everything in dollars because they have dollar bank accounts. And I want to say, as of last year, they had to, like, they stopped being allowed to hold dollars in their bank accounts. And of course, everybody got properties abroad and stuff like that and accounts abroad. So just the people who don't have any type of monetary literacy, actually are still dependent upon the peso. So everybody else got dollars. So they got dollars. And here we like to use gold and silver as insurance hedges against currency. So the day of reckoning is going to come for those dollar lovers as well, sometime in the future or whatever.
Yeah. I can't wait, Mike, but man, it's just taking a little too long, man. I'm starting to lose the faith, Mike.
Oh, man, I'm very patient. Because think about this. So here's a good analogy. Like I talked about earlier, like, you got to, so if metals is your insurance, like, typically you don't like to, you wouldn't want to have to file a claim just because who actually gets a policy for the day of actually wanting to use it. It's always if something happens. And so say, for example, if your house burned down, it's insured. But then again, I think about all how that will alter your life to where you might be able to rebuild, but imagine if you can't rebuild the way you want to rebuild, you won't be so excited about that, would you? Even though you'll get cashed out with your insurance policy, but it still won't be the same feeling because everybody around you said several houses on the block burned down. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, everybody but Oprah's house, Mike. That one does not get touched.
All you had to do is paint your roof blue. All the houses that have blue paint, their houses are fine. So it must have been an inside thing there.
What the hell's going on with that, Mike? That is nuts.
Yeah, that's just how they operate, man. But hey, appreciate you calling, man.
All right, Mike. Thanks for taking my call.
Be good.
Bye-bye.
Yeah. Yeah, paint your roof blue and the fire will just pass right by your house. Anyway, that's just what I saw on the internet. What else we got here? To the Boris Johnson, former PM and great friend of Ukraine, awarded honorary degree. I don't doubt it. I bet you Biden gonna get a medal too after his administration is up. So here's a question. I saw an article. Let me pull this up real quick. And so it was kind of funny. Let me see. Where is it at? It's talking about basically that Biden is too old. Let me see. No, that's the wrong one. No, so here's one of the little headlines here. Let me move myself out of the way. So, too old, 80-year-old Biden works to combat worries about his age and re-election bid. And so this guy, oh man, there's so much stuff on the internet. Just clowning this guy. It's just amazing. This is the representation for this country. But then again, I know what they're trying to do. But it's sad to say, as of right now, there will be no DNC debates because there are no real candidates. And I thought about the fact that GOP could be on a second or third debate, of course, all arguing about Trump. And the DNC can just get by and go right into some type of second round, third round election without even debating, just because there's no one to debate. And on top of that, they control the software and they control the ballots. So there's no such thing as an election, because when the whole game's rigged against you, what exactly are you voting for? It's all an illusion. Biden was at ground zero 9/11. Damn, never knew that. I never did that either. What was he doing there? If he was there. Trump is not the Messiah. I agree. 100%. I just think that it's no coincidence that there's a figure that has been placed in the limelight at this exact time that is able to stir up hope and excitement amongst a somewhat growing portion of the population that has their attention and loyalty, to where a lot of people, will follow him all the way to the end because there is no other figures out there. People are so fixed on some man rather than realizing our country itself, the entire government structure is a problem. Not one single person can fix. And the primary example, I thought about this not long ago, and a lot of the narratives that they're using, drain the swamp. After the last couple of years now of hearing that term, and I've come to realize you can't drain the swamp because the swamp is the government. And so no single person can eradicate lawlessness and injustice at its core. No one, no single human being. And so it's like we're going to always argue amongst ourselves about who says this, what's the greatest talking points. They're all selling you an idea of what they can do, but the system is bigger than all of them. The swamp is bigger than Trump. The swamp is bigger than DeSantis, Vivek, and the swamp is the government. And there's no way at this current moment of getting rid of this government unless 300 something plus million Americans wake up to what's going on and take action. Until that happens, everything else is just hopium, in my opinion. But I could be wrong. I always leave a little bit of space just in case I'm wrong. All right, my good people. As always, it has been great connecting on a Thursday. Tomorrow at noon, we're doing the M2 Money Show. Thanks to one of the community members that suggested that. I thought that was cool. Mario liked it too. So we're going to run with the M2 Money Show. M squared, M2. I'm not figuring out which one comes first. But anyway, so we'll connect tomorrow, talk about some of the events from this past week, and as well as take questions, thoughts, and ideas. So feel free tomorrow at noon, check in with us, set a reminder. The thumbnail is up, set a reminder so you can join us. And I look forward to, kicking with you guys again. And on the way out, if you don't mind, hit that thumbs up button, show your love for the channel. And if you're on social media, if you're on Twitter or any other platforms, Facebook, whatever, share this video so more people can come and join us and learn and listen and be encouraged as well. So that's the mission of the People's Talk Show, because everybody has an opinion. Everybody has an area of expertise that they currently have. This is where I want you guys to be able to share it. So, all right, my good people, be blessed, be safe. I will see you guys tomorrow at noon. Shalom. Did you know that China is hoarding a massive amount of food? They will soon have over 2/3 of the globe's corn reserves, over half of its rice, and over half of its wheat. But when asked about it, China lies. So what does China know that we don't? China is the world's #1 importer, relying on the rest of the world to keep their people fed. This makes them the canary in the coal mine when it comes to global food shortages. As Americans, we need to be prepared for potential food shortages. That's where 4Patriots Survival Food comes in. Their kits are compact, stackable, and have received a 5-star review for their flavor and taste. And right now, you can get 10% off your first purchase by using code RTD at checkout at 4patriots.com. Don't wait. Prepare today. Once again, use code RTD at 4patriots.com and save 10% on your